What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Sunset Park. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, we made our way back to Sunset Park, so we're going to have some airplane noises and some duck noises. But Sunset Park is a special place to me. This is where I caught my first fish here in the United States. It was during the month of March. Used some power baits and I managed to catch small little rainbow trout. Now this year in particular, during this season, I've been out here a couple of times, but I've yet to catch any trout in Sunset Park this year. Whether there's too much fishing pressure or the cormorants are chasing the fish around too much, that I don't know, but it seems to me that the fish are in very deep. They're not up as shallow as they used to be, and that of course gives us the problem of how do we get our baits and lures all the way out into the deeper part of the pond to try and find the fish. Now, one of my viewers actually gave me a solution to this little problem. I think it is this user here. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name, but he gave me this, and this is called a Bombarda. Now, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might notice that I just blew up something, but this is no explosive thing. This is a little float thing you use to bombard your baits and lures out there. That's why it's called a Bombarda. It is something that I've actually never fished with before, and I don't even know whether you can find this stuff in the local shops or whether you have to order it online, but it's very interesting looking, and that is why I want to try this out there today to see if I can get any fish on it. Now, the gentleman that gave me this, I want to thank you for giving this to me. And of course, English is not his first language. It's also not my first language. So there was a bit of a problem in explaining how I should be fishing with this. But I do think I got the gist of it, and we'll give it a go. But first, let's have a look at a little Bombarda. Alright, so being new to fishing, I quite regularly run into some concepts or ideas that I'm not familiar with. And I have to be honest, the Bombarda is also one of them. The viewer I mentioned, when I ran into him at Foyland Park, he gave me two of these little floats, and he explained to me how to use it, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But he gave me two, and these are two different ones. The one has a little lead weight in there. The other one, you have to supply your own lead weights on it. And the idea behind this is an alternative to using a Carolina rig. Now, this is not something that I've seen a lot of in South Africa, and I don't think it's something that's used a lot in the US, but it is used all across the world. One of the reasons why you'll see that it says sinking. The idea is you get good casting distance, and it's a slow sinking thing, taking your baits or lures down to the bottom. You'll also see that this one says 5G. I don't think this thing connects to the internet. I think this is more 5 grams that gives us the weight for this thing. That's why it's a slow sinking, and you have to add some split shots on there to ensure that it sinks down to the bottom. So the way I'm rigging this, I got two little swivels with some beads just for it to be moving around a bit, and then from this bottom swivel I'm going to put down to my lures or my baits. Okay, so not really knowing what the gear I'm supposed to be using with this setup, I quickly want to explain what I have going on here. I'm using my little ugly stick, thinking that we want to get some good casting distance. Ugly stick is a good way to cast out there. And I'm also using some 12-pound test line, thinking I don't want to lose this on the first cast. I'm rather going to go for a big line at first and then scale down as I feel comfortable using this. And I have a little Bombarda on there. And directly below this, I have about 3 feet worth of leader, and on that, a little hook with a little power worm. The idea being, we're going to cast this out and move it back towards us. The instructions that were given to me was to use the little red power worms on here. I unfortunately only have the little brownish ones, but I do also have some Gulp Alive angel worms. They are red, so I have a few different variants I can play around with. As I mentioned, it was very difficult to understand the instructions that was given to me, but basically it was you cast out, let it sink, lift the rod, and slow. So from this, I understand that I get good casting distance. I want it to go down to the bottom. I'm going to be fishing slowly on the bottom, and every once in a while you just lift the rod just to give some movement to the little worm. And I've also seen some videos where the people cast it out and they slowly retrieve it back to them, giving some movement to the worm. And that's what I'm going to be doing. Going to be making different casts, different colors of worms, and see if we can get any action out of the fish. Of course, this is also a great setup if you want to be using some flies or any lures you can think that you want crawling on the bottom, you can use with this setup. So let's see how it works. Getting decent casting distance from it, but I think if I downscale to some lighter line, maybe some 8 or 6 pound, I will get a lot better casting distance. So now all we do is we wait for it to sink. The little Bombarda is supposed to be a slow sinking thing, and it's going to take that little worm quite a while to get down to the bottom. So we want to take our time with this. Should also be a great way to try and find some bass and stuff, but of course there's not that many bass here left at Sunset Park. Alright, so I've counted to about 15 seconds, giving it time to go to the bottom. It's not that deep here, so I think we should be on the bottom already. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the rod tip, give some movement to the little bait, and try and keep some tension on the line. Now the reason I have that little 3-foot leader, I don't want my worm too close to the little Bombarda. I don't want the movement of that thing to scare away any fish. With this heavy line, it's quite difficult to get some good tension on the little thing, so I can lift it. So maybe need to swap out to some lighter line. Let's see how it looks in the water. It's a very slow sinking. So I think while I have this heavier line on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower my rod tip when trying to retrieve it. That way I have lots of tension on the line, so we can see if we're getting any strikes. So of course, while I'm throwing a little Bombarda with the worm on there, I have a second rod out there with some power baits. We'll see if maybe we can get anything on the 2 rods, on the 2 methods we're using. So with my rod tip down, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly reel in, moving that little worm on the bottom. Alright, and the first thing that I'm noticing is I'm doing this way too quickly. I need to slow down my retrieve, which is a good idea for fishing in the winter as well. Slower baits, you don't want quick moving baits. Right, so the great thing of fishing with something new or something different is you learn quite a lot very quickly. In a matter of a few casts, I have noticed that with the thicker line, when reeling it in, the way it spools around your reel, it sets you up for a big crow's nest. A few casts in, you will rip off more line than you're supposed to, just of the way it reels in. So I'm using some smaller line, gonna need some tension when reeling in. And of course, I'm also learning that I need to slow down. I don't know whether it's because of all sorts of different ways or styles of fishing, but as soon as I can see my stuff in the water, I can see that I'm moving it way too quickly, and it's quite a learning curve to try and slow down my retrieve. I'm also putting on a little red flavored worm, the idea being that this is flavored, so fish are maybe more willing to go for this than rather the plasticky tasting power bait worm. So I'm going to cast around some more and see if I do improve. And immediately I'm getting way more casting distance going to some lighter line. Now we have to wait for it to sink down again. This does sink very slowly, and every time you move the rod it comes up in the water, so you need it to go down again. And of course, with having bigger casting distance, I think I managed to actually reach that pipe from the pumping station. There's a pipe that goes all the way pumping the water, and going in deeper means you risk getting snagged onto that pipe. But luckily we still have a second one. We can try out that one, maybe see if we can miss the pipe next time. Alright, so with the first setup, that one had a built-in little lead weight. This one does not, so I put on a small piece of weight just to make sure we get down on the bottom. We again have a long leader with a little worm on there. I'm going to cast out. Let's hope this time I don't lose it on the first cast. I'm also going to go more to the side, that way I ensure that I'm not going directly for the pipe. The entire idea with this is just a different way to try and present some of my lures out there. We know the fish are here, we can see the cormorants catching them, we know they stock them, but just trying to find a way to entice these fish while they are stressed and being chased around to bite. And that's why I'm trying to find a different way to present my lures to them. Alright, but I'm not going to show you guys hours worth of footage of me just slowly reeling in. So if something happens, I'll bring you to the action. Alright guys, it's starting to look like I'll be having another skunk out here today. Doesn't seem like I'm going to get any fish on either the lures that I'm throwing or the little power baits out there. But these little cormorants, they are catching quite a few trout. One of them actually just swam right up to me and kind of dropped his fish. So I'm quickly going to see if we can get this fish in the net and see if this fish is okay. I don't think he's going to make it, but let's see if we can get him in the net. You can see he's still alive. He does, however, have a big gash here on his side. Don't know whether he's bleeding internally or something, but the fact that he's not swimming around, I think he's not going to survive his close attempt with the little cormorants. At least we're getting some shots of a fish in this video, although I didn't catch it myself. I caught it in the net. Just get him some oxygen again. I hope he's going to make it. If not, we're going to release him in any case, see whether some of the cormorants will come back for him. He's slowly swimming away, but I think he's too injured. He's just going to sit around here, hoping that something won't come to harm him. Alright, ladies and gents, I have to say, fishing with the little Bombarda, that was quite a blast. But sadly, we are getting skunked today. Luckily, we got to see a fish in this video at least, but that was not caught. This really is a bad way to show off the little Bombarda not getting any fish. But remember that I had a second rod out there with power baits the entire day as well. I had absolutely no bites on that. And there can be a million reasons for not getting any bites out there, but I'm not going to make excuses. We didn't catch anything. Now, as far as the little Bombarda goes, I will definitely use that again. Great casting distance on that thing. It really does grant you the ability to bomb your baits out there. And when you're lifting your rod, if you have a little worm on there, that thing jumps up in there and it kind of swims down slowly. The action of that in the water looks pretty great. And when you're just dragging it on the bottom, you still have a little worm thing moving on the bottom, so it still looks great. Now, of course, it's quite diverse in the way you can fish it. I also tried out some power eggs out there, tried a little gulp minnow, and I have to say, for something that I didn't even know exists, this thing looks pretty good and it works pretty good. I just couldn't manage to catch anything out there. And you have to remember, this is the first time I ever fished with it. There's a lot of things about it I don't know. I don't know whether the action I'm giving it is right or not. I'm sure the gentleman that gave it to me has a lot more experience in it. But even without catching any fish, I'm still convinced that the Bombarda deserves a little spot in your tackle box. If you're someone that knows a lot about the little Bombarda or has some more information for me, please go down in the comments and go tell us about it. Also feel free to ask any questions down there. And also please do give me a little thumbs up on this video. It helps so other people can also see this different style of fishing. And if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. I do weekly videos for you guys. Alright, but on that note, I want to thank you guys for following me out here today. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.